Hey, good morning. It is 11:18. I believe it's the 12th today. Let me just double check on that. Really not paying too much attention. It's actually the 11th. Today is June 11th, and it looks like it is Thursday. Oh, wow. No, Wednesday. Okay. Wow. Okay. So it's Wednesday morning, and I got up early this morning. I just wanted to get some stuff out of the way. I had mentioned that I'm working on a project to try to get me back home. I'm wanting to get back to Lancaster, California. And I made a video about it a couple of days ago. I don't know if I deleted that video or not because, there's been times where, I've had issues with my computer and I ended up just deleting it and then restarting over again. So I hopefully I'm going to be a little bit more formal this time. I'm having, I want to spend the rest of my life in Lancaster, California. And like I said, I would say that I don't know if the rest of my adoptive family is living there or not, or are they some of the people that ended up dying in all of this? I have no idea. In my heart and in my mind, I don't feel any sort of psychic connection to them, meaning when I cared about them, I felt like, you could feel kind of like an energy around them, and I distance myself, so I don't really care. All I care about is just never seeing these people again. Okay, I don't ever want to encounter anybody that I was, my adoptive family, and I don't want anything to do with my blood relations either. And nor do I wish to see any of the kids that I went to school with, okay? I feel as though that whole situation is very traumatizing. All I really want to do is just go back home and find some sort of sense of normalcy, meaning just get back to the regular, go to work, come home, and just devote the rest of my life doing my projects. I don't want to really have any sort of interaction with too many people. I think it's best that I keep to myself, mainly because I feel as though I could never ever trust anyone else again. And even though it's very obvious that I'm innocent, you know what I mean? I've done absolutely nothing wrong. It's just the fact that, I see how impressionable people are, okay? And I don't feel comfortable really interacting with a lot of people, mainly because of the nature of it. If somebody's going to allow you to struggle and suffer, and they were willing to harass me and be a part of the campaign, I understand that there was a lot of religious brainwashing in it and everything, but it seems as though there was something darker than that to me. And it's like, I just feel more comfortable not really having a whole lot of interaction other than professionalism. Like when you have to go to work and you have to interact with people, it makes sense, okay? But I'm very, very careful about who comes into my home, who I interact with, consistently, who I consider my friend, that kind of thing. It's for my best. I mean, I really think that most people should, for their own protection, create some sort of standards as to who they wish to associate with, because and I'm not saying that you can't say hello or goodbye or be polite or of assistance to people. I'm just saying is, you need to be very careful about who you bring into your life, because there's a lot of people who are just out to use you, okay? And that is the way it is. So anyway, let me tell you about my project. The video is called Human Targets, okay? And right now, I did some experimenting. I sent I had done this before, but I had sent an introductory letter through Outlook Calendar to arrange a time for them to see it, right? And I get for some reason a message just popped in my head saying that my rights are respected. That's absurd, but I understand how this little cult thing works. But anyway, yeah, I sent it through the calendar, and so hopefully that they would respond whether they were interested in seeing it or not, and what option. There's two options. There's an option to just watch the video, and there's an option to watch the video and then have a 30-minute contact with me, question and answers regarding, I guess the specific details of human trafficking, and perhaps maybe if they wanted to ask something personal relating to my story, okay? So the length of the video is 2 hours and 37 minutes long, okay? So that sounds like a very long time. So, I would say that if people wanted to show it to maybe everybody within their office, they could sit and watch it, and then after, I have to clock it, as to how long it's going to take them to watch the film, and then also come back and communicate with them to prepare for a meeting, like a meeting to where we converse about the topic. And so that's a lot of timing, and the reason why is because, had these people not interfered with my Ko-fi and my Patreon account, I wouldn't have not had to have all these little additional steps. Okay, right now, my payment method, the only payment method I have is Cash App, okay, which people can pay with their credit card if they choose to, but I understand that mostly Cash App transactions relate to, you know, a debit card type thing. And there is usually a fee for people who do pay with a credit card. I don't have those sophisticated things that maybe like, you know, Ko-fi or Patreon has, because, you know, I no longer trust those platforms, okay? And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, you know what I mean? Hang on a second, I'm getting a message. The intuitive message is that something about Lancaster, okay, but I'm going to get to that later, okay? And it's good that my rights are being respected. I should hope that going forward that this sort of stuff never happens to anyone else again, okay? If a person is over the age of 18, they have every right to exercise their rights, okay? And anything like that, any covert type programs to where people are putting things in place to try to prevent somebody from living, that needs to be reported to the Department of Human Trafficking. And hopefully this particular department is really doing what they're supposed to be doing, okay? Because the only time somebody would actually do this in such a covert manner is to abuse a person. There is no other reason. Okay, a message popped up in my head. It's about me not being religious. Like I said, I believe that there is two separate things. There's spirituality, and then there's religion. I suppose some religions do have a true sense of spirituality, meaning when I talk about spirituality, I believe that morals come in to play when it comes to spirituality. I believe that this is one of the reasons why Jesus was so outstanding, is because, you know, he had morals of that time period, okay? You know, and this is how he seemed kind of like a, what do you call it, kind of like a social reformer in a way, okay, because people were doing a lot of barbaric things at that time in the Old Testament, and he came and then he kind of refined everything, okay? So I am not religious. I gave religion a try. It's not that I didn't, and I find a lot of hypocrisy in this because like I said, you know, I was, you know, criticized for studying with Jehovah's Witnesses as if this particular group, meaning the Mormons, the Catholics, all the other denominations, were scoffing at me and acting as if I was being stupid to study with Jehovah's Witnesses, and yet they accept Terry Collins, which is Bruce Collins, I mean, my son's biological grandmother. They accept her in this little group, but they did not accept my attempt to get into quote-unquote mainstream religion through the Jehovah's Witnesses. So there's a lot of hypocrisy, and the main reason, because we all know that it had nothing to do really with religion. It had more things to do with this being a very Nazi influence, and it had more to do with white nationalism. Also, I do get the feeling that people looked at me like, you know, I talked about people who care about their lives, people who are well-dressed, people who take care of themselves. People have normalized this sort of abuse, and they've used a lot of women against me in this situation, women who were not happy with themselves, okay, like I said. And I'm making a lot of standards and setting standards for myself as I go along in my life. And I would say this has always been a standard of mine, okay? I don't want to be around, what do you call it, people who have low self-esteem. They are the worst people to be around with. I understand why my mom did what she did. I understand why my sister participated in it. I understand how they were so heartless when they did it. The reason why is because they poured all of their self-hatred into me as if I'm responsible for their failures. I'm not responsible for people's failures. Okay? But I'll tell you who is responsible for most of the people's failures. I would say the church is. Okay? I would say the church is, mainly because they have put a lot of pressure on people to do things that they weren't naturally inclined to do, okay? And that includes, you know, sometimes it includes being married, and it sometimes includes giving birth as well as adopting children, okay? So I understood, you know, that a lot of the people that I was around when I was growing up were they kind of reminded me of sheep, like just blindly following the herd. They did this in a lot of different ways, okay? But now as an adult, I've seen that a lot of people's marriages are manipulated through like these kingdom spouses. A lot of people I see children, neglected children all the time, okay? And I see that a lot of people who yell at their kids, or they let their kids scream for long hours at a time. There's a lot of neglect that goes on, and the reason why is because they don't love their kids. Okay, there's a lot of resentment within these family units, and the reason why the resentment is there is because they were coerced, they were put pressure. It could be religious pressure, and then the family jumps in because they want their kids to do everything that the church tells them to do. And like I said, this is not me speaking in a way of defying or being in defiance, and in no way am I rebelling. I get tired of that. Okay, I am under no obligation to listen to any church official whatsoever. It is against the law to put that expectation on me, and even more importantly, it's illegal to sit here and prevent me from being able to make an income. See, and this is what just like blows me away. And you would think that a lot of people would know this because these people were bullying me over the education issue. Like I said, a lot of education comes from different sources, and sometimes religious institutions, and I would say the majority of the kids who were jumping on me were the kids that knew me from school. But if by mere chance they did go to a church, what do you call it, a church or school that was, I guess, had some sort of a religious affiliation, they are going to see the world in a completely different manner. They're going to see it through the eyes of their religion. Unfortunately, government doesn't work that way, and it's not supposed to either. Okay, so yes, I did send out, I've been getting up, I started my list, my contact list yesterday. Okay, so I sent out a batch of emails. I'm doing this on a consistent basis. My goal is to raise enough money to be able to pay my rent, also pay for my moving expenses, and to find an apartment. Okay, and I'm hoping that President Trump is aware of this particular video, just for my own safety. And the reason why is because I have dealt with infiltration of people who have never had anything to do with my money. I have been prevented from making money for reasons that were absolutely frivolous and, more importantly, illegal. Okay, I don't care how much somebody seems to think. Look, I don't think I'm beautiful, but that is no way reason to sit here and obstruct someone. Also, I understand that there are some people who do not like marijuana. The issue is that now that marijuana is legal here in California, it should be looked upon just like an alcoholic beverage. There are people who drink wine. There's some people who drink beer. There was a time in history where, alcohol was kind of like a taboo thing. But slowly but surely it became, like a no big deal. Like if I see my neighbor walking down the street or in his front yard drinking a beer, I'm not going to sit here and like grab my son, start whispering in his ear, start gossiping about him and making up stories about him and constantly spying on him. It has become a norm, okay? It has slowly become a norm. Also, I understand that there's a lot of people who are alcoholics, and there's some people who like to casually drink, okay? There are some people who are what I call potheads, who are completely not able to function, and then there are some people who use it for, like myself, to either help me with sleep or to elevate my mood, which is already down a lot of times, mainly because of, at this point, it is mainly because of me feeling so absolutely devastated based on the things that I have. No, I mean, the thing is that I understand what I was dealing with were people who wanted to set the rules. Okay, if marijuana is illegal, marijuana is legal, and clothes are legal, and makeup is legal, and hair is legal, and going to the 99-cent store is legal, then there is no reason why somebody should ever use that against me. Okay, there is no reason why that should be ever used against anybody. Or my preferences of where I choose to go. If I choose to go to Trader Joe's one week, and then the next week I go to Albertsons, and then I go to Walmart to pick up some groceries, that's my choice, and my purchases should be private. I am completely resentful towards the people who were, that sick and twisted. And honestly, I cannot wrap my brain around it. Mainly because, like I said, how is it that they can sit here and pretend this way? And I really have to look at it from this standpoint. I believe the Bible is written to set an example, like talk about things that happened in the past. I would say history in general, okay? When you look back on history, you're looking at some of the things that occurred, right? And you're like, oh, these things happen in repeated patterns, okay? Like if this particular person made a mistake, the reason why they made a mistake, the underlying cause of the mistake, and so on and so forth, right? It's like, I feel as though when I look at these people who used religion, and some of these people, they talk about Jesus all the time, okay? It really does become very, very creepy. Christianity to people, especially the ones that I've encountered, has nothing to do with God.
It has nothing to do with God. But what it does have to do is it has something to do with control. And that's what it does. Okay, and I recognize it because I'm somebody who's aware of my human rights. I'm aware of these sort of things. And I used to think that the majority of other people were. So what this issue really proves is that I understand that I'm more educated than a lot of people who've been formally educated in, big brick and mortar institutions, like, what they call brick and mortar type, yeah, institutions, schools, regular schools, let you actually attend. You go through the whole process of 4 years, okay? And, I understand I'm an autodidact, but you know what? An autodidact, it's legal to be one. And like I said, if it wasn't for autodidacts, there would be no school system because it had to start somewhere, right? Okay, what else am I going to talk about? So yeah, I am sending out my invitations. And, like I said, I just recently started, okay? And this might require me having to call and follow up, to discuss this, which I don't really like to do that, but I will do it. I have to make money, and I have the right to. So I understand things that went on in this group of mine that I didn't want to be associated with. They are not in any way supposed to create any sort of obstruction. They need to stay out of my life. And this is one of the reasons why I'm getting the attention of Donald Trump, and I'm going to put him in this, the title of this particular video. The reason why is because I want to make sure that I have some sort of backup and protection. I am tired of dealing with the childish behavior of this particular group of people. And I'm also tired of dealing with people who make up rules as they go along when it comes to, laws and what I'm supposed to respect. I do not respect Christianity, or, I don't ever want to, I want to eliminate all traces of organized religion from my life. Meaning, I do not want to be invited to anyone's church. I do not want to hear that stuff anymore. Okay, I feel as though these people, okay, have done enough harm. They've done enough harm. Okay, so yeah, I had already covered the issue of marijuana. I've already covered. Oh yeah, okay. Now I understand. Like I said, I've been obstructed for reasons that were completely illegal. And when you think about it now, I mean, my reasons were valid. My reasons were valid to not want to get married. I've been encountering all kinds of weirdos, creeps that are associated with this particular group, which I am not happy with, okay? I don't want to be associated with anybody who seems to think it's okay to be, in a relationship with my family, okay? Why? Because I choose to select people that are free from that. And the reason why is because I do not want their stuff to creep in. Because every time you have a friend, they want to come over to your house and they want to report back to these people that have no right to be involved in my life whatsoever. Okay, it is none of my family's business how I live, who I'm talking to, what I'm doing. None of their business, especially under the conditions of how I was adopted. That is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Okay, what else? I do get the intuitive message that I'm the most successful woman and the first to win in this church issue. And this to me is crazy for 2025. It is absolutely crazy for 2025, okay? But really, I don't know. I don't know. I think this was more a Rex Laverne thing, even though I understand that there was corruption on the parts of the different churches, collaborating and sharing information and blurring the lines of their doctrines, okay? But at the same time, I'm shocked that at 2025, people have this kind of control over women. That is just bizarre to me. And I've never been into women's rights at all. I would literally was just somebody who got caught up in going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. And then I realized, this has been my cycle for a very long time. I had not found anyone that I was interested in dating. And I just went on with my life. You know what I mean? I never realized that it was sitting here causing all kinds of people talking about it. And okay, the message I'm getting right now is the reason why people talked about it is because I dress nice, okay? I have a different set of standards, and yes, I believe clothes are important in a person's life. I believe clothes are important. I believe my appearance is important. You know why? Because I have to live with it. If I am not content with who I am as a person, guess what kind of things these people do? They lash out. They blacklist people. Women start gossiping about people. They start bullying about that woman, and she has every right to. She has every right to. You know why? Because when you think about it, when you take care of yourself, right, I don't do it for the opposite sex, okay? I do it because I love clothes, and I believe in order to continue living, we have to gravitate towards the things that we love, okay? I don't have any reason to love people. I do not have any reason to love my family. I do not have any reason to care about my old friends. I do not have anyone in my life that has ever shown to me that they had any sort of sense of character or any sense of morals. So guess what? The only person I live for is me. The only person I live for is me. And the only brightness that I'm going to have in life is probably maybe a new shirt, or maybe buy some shoes, or maybe, get some socks, or maybe, or change my hairstyle or something like that. That's all I have to live for. I have nothing to live for. Okay? But these things are what keeps me going. And this is what I choose to live for. Okay, what else do I have? So yeah, it's important that people understand that what women do doesn't necessarily have anything to do with men. Okay, I would say no, a definite nada. It has never. Now, when I was younger, I think I did press up a little bit more if I saw somebody that I thought was cute. I probably did as a kid, but as an adult, no. This is 100% me, and me wearing an advertisement saying that this is who I am and this is the kind of people that I choose to be around. I want people with high standards. I want to be around people who are strong. I want to be around people who have similar values. No, I do not expect people to have all the same values as I do. That's impossible. Okay, this is what makes people an individual. Okay, but I don't want to ever have to deal with a girl sitting here whispering in the ear of another girl trying to plot because she feels jealous and insecure about, herself when she has it within her control to change her wardrobe if this is what she wanted to do. Okay? So I don't want to be around those kind of people. Okay, I want to be around people who share the same views and at least the core values. The core values, okay? And I believe, like I said, when I talked about women of substance, yeah, I believe, the kind of women that I would choose to be around are people who, number one, respect themselves, okay? You've got to respect yourself. Also, somebody who is very strong, somebody who is very assertive, not aggressive, but assertive, and somebody who, does not feel threatened by things that I believe are superficial. And that's just how it is, okay? So, and everybody has the right to make those standards. I get the intuitive message that a lot of people realize that the burden baby thing was wrong, but so like I said, why did I have to point that out? Why did I have to point it out? Why did I have to sit here and point it out? It's because a lot of people didn't realize or think about the history or the connection of how these things actually came to be in the first place. They just believed what everybody. Do you understand that that whole story about the stork is something that was actually derived from all of that? Like, oh, we got this baby. Where did we get the baby come from? Oh, the stork bought it. No, the stork didn't bring it. It was some sort of weird arrangement. You know what I mean? But I can honestly say, though, looking back on this one particular family that I knew who had a burden baby, I would say that, you do get benefits, just like my father. And it's not to say that my father got, just because I was a burden baby, that my father got a job at NASA. Unlike most other people who take advantage of their social situations, my father was a true worker. And just like me, I'm the same way. You know what I mean? I enjoy working. I like inventing. I like, I enjoy what I do. Okay? And see, this is another issue that I hated about this trafficking network. It's like they want to decide if I chose to have a job or I chose to have a business. That is 100% in my jurisdiction. That is not for anyone else to say. Okay? So these people, to me, are evil. They're evil. What else do I want to say? I do not want to think about the people that I used to know anymore. But I did get a message. It was basically saying that a lot of the people that I used to know are arguing amongst themselves. Now, I thought a lot of the people that I used to know are dead because of their own foolish behavior, which I'm not responsible for. But I get the feeling that the remaining of these people are arguing and that they're miserable. And the weird thing is, they know that they have no one to blame but themselves. They can sit here and say, oh, it's because, she was adopted and we were trying to take control over her. Well, then you're just openly admitting that you were basically a human trafficker. Oh, we were trying to get her to be married. Oh, you're admitting it even more. We were trying to tell her what to wear. You're admitting it even more. You're knee deep into this, okay? So, at this point, they just need to be quiet and do whatever they need to do and stay the hell out of my life. And I need to tell them that, I do not want any more obstructions. I do not want anybody conspiring against me anymore. And this is the reason why I'm putting Donald Trump's name in the title of this video. Now, guess what? As I was writing the script to this particular video. I'm calling the video Human Targets, right? And once again, it got flagged by Grammarly. It did not like that word, like human targets. It sounds like you're implying that you're trying to assassinate somebody or something like that. That is not true, okay? So I'm going to, the name of this video is called Human Targets, an informative video about human trafficking for the state of California. So might call the title something different because I do not want to say anything offensive about the president or even imply it, because number one, I don't have anything against President Trump. And I don't want the title to get flagged or something to where people are thinking something like this. And yes, it's very important about what you say about the leaders of this country online and in your correspondences, okay? That could get you into a lot of trouble. I don't want the misunderstanding, okay? So I'm just letting you know, I will be changing the title I will not be calling the video Human Targets in this particular presentation. It's just going to be on the front intro of the little thumbnail. Also, what else do I want to say? People, I do know that people are talking about my projects, and I don't think people really took me seriously when I started talking about this. And like I said, the reason why is because they felt. See, I'm not the kind of person to argue, but see, they felt like they wanted to challenge me, and this game that they played had no right. They had no right to, interfere into my life. And what they were trying to do was block me and take away my rights. Okay, so like I said, if this was to come down to like the court system, where they were to try to explain why they were doing what they're doing, they didn't want my rights to be respected. And once again, they would be openly admitting that they were participating or traffickers. Yeah, so that's it. So every day I'm making a list of about 40 people to send it to. I have not heard back from anyone yet. I mean, it's still very early. I'm hoping that I can get enough to get out of here, because I really feel as though it's time for me to move on. And like I said, I don't know really what Lancaster's like, but I feel as though I need some sort of rejuvenation and moving away from. And I understand I've been targeted since I lived in Lancaster, but the targeting intensified when I moved here to Bakersfield. Okay, and I do believe that Bakersfield to me is just associated with nothing but trauma. It's associated with trauma because all of the stuff at Murray Family Farms from that point on just got to be an absolute nightmare. I also would say though, for my previous perpetrators, I do feel as though I obviously do not have any respect for them, okay? And this should be a lesson to people who want to invade other people's privacy and want to manipulate things behind the scenes. Now, these people are now broken. They now are suffering and are dealing with a lot of repercussions based off of their stupid actions, okay? Do not ever do this sort of thing again. Now that you've seen what happened, and you guys were paying attention, people in this community were paying attention to what was going on before I even really realized what everything was going on, okay? So they saw these people riding high, being very obnoxious, rubbing it in, making a complete joke of my life, right? Disrespecting who I was, knowing good and well that I was adopted, and now they just proved their cruelty to the entire world. Yes, my rights are respected, and yes, these people got exactly what they deserve, okay? Anyway, let me see, there's something else I want to say. I do get the feeling that my intellectual, so they were trying to test my intellectual abilities. The thing is, some of these kids that I went to school with when I was growing up, they knew I was intelligent, but they always shot it down, because they were used to seeing me laughing and talking and being silly and everything like that. So I think a lot of them got offended by, my intellectual side. And I really got tired of suppressing who I was around these people. So, what the thing is, I realized we were not meant to be friends. The people that I used to know in the past, we were not meant to be friends. And I accept that. I move on, you know what I mean? But these people were just, very unhappy with themselves, wanting to attack another person. I'm not responsible for anyone's problems. And, and this should also be a lesson too, that throughout life, you might end up getting a new car. You might end up getting a nice house. You might be, you might end up getting a better job than people that you are around, okay? And they might feel like inadequate, and they might either covertly do things to you, or they might say things like that try to hurt your feelings and get under your skin, okay? And once again, it's not your responsibility to deal with people's problems. It's unfortunate that people may not be where they want to be in life, okay? But it all boils down to the choices that we make, okay? And once you understand if something is wrong, you can either decide to go the right way to fix your problem, or you can continue, digging a hole for yourself. The choice is yours, okay? But one thing you don't do, you do not take your problems out on other people. It is not anyone's problem to deal with your inadequacies or what you perceive to be an inadequacy. Because a lot of times, you're not inadequate, but a lot of people can actually make you feel that way when there's really no reason to do that. Other than to, people play these stupid ego games. Don't get wrapped up into it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.